Alright, now go to question 6. So, question 6, we are given a statement and then we are given a diagram. We ask now start this fund statement, try to understand yonke into abayishoyo, sizama uku-understand the diagram. Mase kuyima siyobheka umbuzo wokuqala ukuthi uthini. Alright, kuthi the following graphs, as you can see, khona u-S igcineni maningi lama graphs awu-3, as you can see, khona le blue, kube khona le red, kube khona le purple. But kuwena it might be visible as black and white mase sikusendelile i-question paper. Leyo uzobuyibona wena or noma uzoyithola kwi-exam izobe black and white without color. The following graphs represent bond formation. There is under bond formation in diatomic molecules N2, O2 and H2 in random order. Study the graph below and answer the questions that follow. Okay, now a graph la on the x-axis, because you know this is x-axis and this is y-axis. So on the x-axis we have the internuclear distance, and then the y-axis we have the potential energy. And then sizoba the graph of x2 is around about 800 kilojoules, and then we say decrease around negative 400 something kilojoules, and then it start increasing again, and then it approaches 0 up until. But y2 remember we don't know, because x2, O2, H2, we don't know which one is x, which one is y, which one is z. Why? But any random formation ukuthi bayisimisa isinomi kanjani. Uma bethi isinomi kanjani, what do they mean? Into a random, which means there was no thoughts, there was no discussion, there was nothing ebekhona qala ukuze kube khona le order. Imane yabekwa nje nomi kanjani. Ayikho into abayibeke ngayo mhlawumbe in descending order or ascending order, or maybe from alphabetical order. No, I call order random. Bivele nje bayifaka nomi kanjani. And then so study the graph below and answer the question as follows. Okay, and now Z2 now starts around the same energy nakhona or kilojoules laba 800, and then decreases but around something 500 and something close to 600, and then it starts also increasing. We are going to la x2 no z2 ucishe ajike around the same number. Why? Both of them are in between negative 400 and negative 600, and only y2 also very ushintshe nje wena wodwa uyojika almost close to negative 1000 kilojoules, and then kuyima wenza njani usuyanyuka as any internuclear distance inyuka nayo. Remember, the greater the distance, the weaker the strength of the bond, or the stronger the strength of the bond, which means the greater the distance. The opposite here. So it talks about the bond formation of diatomic molecules. Anjani diatomic molecules ilawa which are always represented with U2. They always bond or they always pair with themselves. You will never find oxygen alone. You will never find O2, N2 alone. Ngeke uthole kuthiwa nitrogen. But there's only one atom of nitrogen. There will always be two nitrogen atoms bonded together. There will always be two hydrogen atoms bonded together. Diatomic. Remember, di means two. And then there's always two atoms of the same element that will bond together. With anything. Which is why they are called diatomic elements. Most of them are found on group 7, lower halogens. Most of them are found on that group. We periodic table. So when now imagine all that's left is to go and start answering my questions up. If remember when as you're watching this video, you are preparing yourself for any final examination manje ngoterm 1 yango March. So when if you haven't done this topic, your job is to press pause while it's go and read ama notes, go and watch ama lessons whereby ufundiswa lento le, and then from there on you can come. Ungabuki episode yama question paper ungakaze ufunde. Don't expect ukuthi uzofunda la. No, in this lesson or in this episode ozokwenza wena is to make sure lokho okwaziyo ukuthi ubhala kanjani lezi zinto ozaziyo. How do you interpret them on graphs? How do you interpret them on diagrams? How do you interpret them on flow sheets? Noma kuthiwa yini on the periodic table. But ulwazi usunalo, uliveza kanjani ulwazi? Yonke emele uyingabe uyizela lana kulama lessons. So I advise you to go and learn first and come back to see. Because manje on every question your job is to press pause and then message yaqala. So asame soqala on question 6.1. Alright. Now mbuzo la 6.1 for 2 marks. Define the term bond energy. Okusho ukuthi asichaze yini i-bond energy. I-bond energy nje uma siyichaza yile energy le edingakalayo ukuze kuhlukane ama molecules e compound ethize into ama separate atoms. Okusho ukuthi asithathe i molecule sithi mhlambe H2O. Akolo H2O lo ukuze ahlukane lo H2O abe H2 plus lo O. Yayizonto le energy edingakalayo ukuthi kuhlukane lo H nalo O to break the molecule into its separate atoms. But ke sichaza kanjani nge physical science kahle kahle uma sesiba specific. It is the energy required to break 1 mole of its molecule into separate atoms. The energy required to break 1 mole of its molecule into separate atoms. It's 1 mole yale molecule into its separate atoms. Remember, a mole yini amount of substance. Akhumbula usenza i-stoichiometry or quantitative aspects of chemical change. La usebenzisa khona ukuthi the number of moles are equals to the mass in grams divided by the molar mass in grams per mole. So 6.1. So it's a bond energy is the energy required to break 1 mole of a molecule into its separate atoms. Ushuthi la mandla adingakalayo ukuze i-molecule, remember i-molecule suehlangane ini ama atoms amaningi, regardless if ukuthi it is the same type of atoms or different types of atoms, we don't care. But that molecule, the energy needed to break 1 mole of its molecules into separate atoms, iyona bond energy leyo. Sichaza kanjalo, iyona bond energy. As you can see, wonke la they start around the same number, which is 800 kilojoules. Kilo, remember, represents 1,000. So technically this is 800,000 kilojoules of energy. But ngala, you don't have to be specific. It is the energy required to break 1 mole of its molecules into separate atoms. Iyona definition yethu ye bond energy. Asama 6.2. Alright, so 1 mark again lo. To identify the graph. Remember my graphs are 3 youngins. We have X2, Y2, Y2, and all of them are diatomic between nitrogen, oxygen, or hydrogen. But identify the graph that represents the N2 molecule. Choose from X2, Y2, Z2. So identify with iyona yipi graph le esivezela ini i-bond formation yabani ya nitrogen. So we have nitrogen, we have nitrogen in group bar, and then we have any oxygen, and then we have hydrogen. Lower group 1 is 1 valence electrons, and then lower group 6, and then lower group 7. I'm groups are now. I'm just writing this into a between them. And then what else do we have? We also know about the electronegativities of u-N, u-O, no-H, ukuthi they are also different. Yabo. But let's look at the internuclear distance. Buka la, bonke starts at 800 kilojoules. This is X2. And then iyojika kubani ku negative 400. And then the enye izojika kubani ku negative 500 and something. So X2 no Z2 have a special relationship. But they share bafana. So uma beqishe bafana. Look at njengo H2O. U-O lower H2O naloya H bonds perfectly. Why? Because of a bond formation yakhona. They are close together. La bejika khona, but jika around the same number or in between the same intervals of negative 400 and negative 600. But N2 does everything differently. When it starts at the same number but goes way down almost to negative 1000 and then starts increasing and joins them as they approach ubani 0 kilojoules as a bond policy forming on his. Alright, so it is pretty obvious. Our answer is N2 lo above, but uhamzilana nabani which graph y2. So the answer yako, you leave a space after 6.1. So 6.2 is just y2. It's just an observation. As you can see from the graph, a spiker way down and then it came back up. So remember that the greater the distance, the weaker the bond. The greater the distance, the weaker the bond. Or the stronger the bond. That also means the smaller the distance. Which means if distance my nyuga, the bond will be weaker. If distance my yesha, the bond will be stronger. As you can see from the graph. The nuclear distance is increasing lana. And then the bond is decreasing. The potential energy is decreasing as the bond forms, as the distance increases. But what happens around negative 400 and 600? They start increasing and then they approach 0 kilojoules. But Y2 carries on decreasing as I got something close to negative 1000 joules, according to this graph. And then the potential energy start increasing again. This is your figure around 0 joules. So our answer is Y2. Alright, so sichaze ukuthi why isikhethe ukuthi N2 lo. So into ngiyichaza ukuthi N2 iwona ozohluka wodwa between oxygen or hydrogen. But let me give you a visual representation here when we're talking about bonds. N2 will have let's just use a blue, orange. So let's say we have N and then no N, and then going down we can have O, no O, and then going down let's just have H, no H. Alright, so when you look at the periodic table yakho, the periodic table enginayo mina phone, I don't have one paper. But when you look at the periodic table yakho, you can see ukuthi UN is in group 7. If it's in group 7, there are 7 valence electrons. 7 valence electrons. And then O 6. And then group 1. So technically la asithi nje 1, there's only 1 kanje, yabo? And then la kwenzakalani ke la 6 around each atom, 6 valence electrons. And then obviously singasho ukuthi la can have 1 2 and then 1 and then 2 supposed to put a cross la. I dot. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. And then sizengala can have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then kubo banike 4 and then 5. Ashiyele kanje. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then nala kuzoba 4, 5, 6. But ke buka ke sisafama ngakhe awu6 la, but unitrogen sesiyazi ukuthi uka group 7 kunomunye okhona la nomunye okhona la. Yabo? So now la ke lento engishoyo ke bo uhydrogen una 1, uoxygen una 1, 2. Yabo? But nitrogen una 1, 2, 3. Yabo? So nitrogen has the highest bond order. Une triple bond between the nitrogen atoms. Yona visual representation asambe soyibhala ke manje ngamagama. Ukuthi nitrogen has the highest bond order. N2 has the highest bond order. Alright, highest bond order. There is a triple bond between the N atoms. So ngabhala la ukuthi there is a triple bond. Le kade ngidwebile manje. But akushiwo ngokuthi idwebe between the N atoms. Yabo. So kusho ukuthi the greater the number of bonds, but on the shorter the bond length. Kusho ukuthi the greater the number of bonds, the shorter the bond length. Because we are saying ba inversely proportional. Okusho ukuthi i-bond izoba strong if the number of bonds are weak, making the potential energy la to be way low. Ngobani, it has the highest bond order. So for 3 marks again, ngizobhala kanje ukuthi why kahle kahle sikhethe nitrogen as the graph of Y2. Asengumbuzo olandelayo. Alright, so question 6.4. 1 mark again. As you can see, almost don't come a question la. 1 mark, 2 mark. Be there 3 marks so far. Write down the value of the bond energy for the H2 molecule. Ukhumbule H2. It has the lowest bond order. Same bond. So ile obviously ile X2 le. Yeah, H it can't be le Z ngoba ni ifika ngaphansi kancane yabo iyadlula. So mawubuka la kwi-graph yakho, mawuthi awuboni la ngizobe ngikhomba khona manje. Send a message immediately mase uyibuka le video uthi uyacela bandla sikuphe le question paper sizokwazi ukuthi sikusendele ku-WhatsApp, and then you can zoom in as much as you want, or you can print libe phambi kwakho khona uzowabona perfectly lama values lawa ukuze i-estimation process yakho ibe more clearer than le ozobibuka kwi-smartphone. Alright, so as you can see X2 ujika la ujika khona, it is so close to 400 than 600. Okusho ukuthi you 400 and something, yabo? But ke you can't say ukuthi you 401. Why? The distance between 400 and 600 is incane, which means kenzeka lento leyo ukuthi mhlambe igudla la ko 420, 480, 440 lapho. Remember, we answer sheets. I mean, we memorandum uma sebe mark. They will accept all your answers as long as they make sense. Yes, to show. Njengobona nawe la, it can never be 490 lento le. Yes, ngoba ayisondelene part nendawo, ayisondelene 500. Ayikho even part nendawo kwa part nendawo. It's not even 25%. It is a little bit less. Yabo? So sizobhala ukuthi 130 kilojoules as the answer yethu. Wena mhlawumbe ungabhala ke mhlawumbe ama-answers angaba right mhlawumbe 420, 425, mhlawumbe 435, mhlawumbe ama-answers around these lines, yabo. But as you can see, they are all close to 408, yabo. Ngokuncane sibuka la kwi-graph. Uthatha nje answer yakho from i-graph and use an estimation process to get your answer. Remember, this is just 1 mark. So most ukujuluka ujulukele 1 mark. I-answer isuke iphambi kwakho. Asengumbuzo olandela. Alright, so now umbuzo wa 1 mark. Okay. Which molecule has the longest wavelength? Which molecule has the longest bond length? Don't know why it's only wavelength. So yona iphi ene bond length and choose from X2, Y2 no Z2. So now we know ukuthi asithi nje X2, Y2. Why ngifuna ukubhala lo uZ ngibhala uX Z2. So sesiyazi ukuthi ubala lo nitrogen and then lo oxygen lo and then lo ubani hydrogen. Alright, so yona iphi ke ezoba ne bond length and unabo bonke, and remember the greater the bond energy, which means the longer the bond length. The shorter the bond length. So between OX no Z, same here again Y, because obviously between X no Z, as you can see, Z, which has any potential energy enkudlwana. Now okay, by that knowledge we will choose Z2. Ungabhali ukuthi O2, ungabhali oxygen. Why? But say choose from X2, Y2 and Z2. So now was O2, even though your answer is correct, but it's saying body graph yakhona. There isn't the. So our answer would be just Z2. Just Z2 in terms of any longest bond length. The longest bond length. So i-answer nje amanzi amaningi la 1 mark and siwathatha kuphi? Siwathatha kwi-graph le abasinikeze yona. Ngiyagcizelela uma ungayiboni le graph, take a screenshot ukwazi ukuzooma kuyona, or even better, ela sikusendele sizokwazi ukukusendela i-question paper oyidingayo. Ukuze uzokwazi phela ukuyiprinta uyibone ngesandla khona uzokwazi ukuview kahle izinamba la, or even better uzokwazi nokuzooma uma usebenzisa i-mobile device, mhlawumbe i-tablet, i-laptop, cell phone, whatever. Uzokwazi ukuthi wenze njani uyivule lo document bese uyakwazi ukubona clearer, uzo understand why we chose inumber ethize and why we chose igraph ethize. Sengumbuzo olandela. Alright, now umbuzo ogcina question 6. It is also the last question on the whole paper of March 2022. Common test. Alright, arrange molecules Y2, X2 and Z2 in terms of increasing bond order. Siyazi ukuthi air nitrogen Y2 has the highest bond order. Kuze yipi air oxygen. Kuze yipi air hydrogen. Yabo? But that is decreasing bond order. Kuthi increasing. In order phela into ukuthi increase, which means kufana njenge ascending order. You start from the smallest or the lowest to the highest or the greatest. Uqala kwencane ugcine kwenkulu. Yona iphike enama bonds amancane. Yini hydrogen, which is X2. Ukusho ukuthi sizoqala ngobani? X2. Kuze bani? Kulandela oxygen, which is Z2. So X2 is smaller than ubani? Z2, which is also smaller than ubani? Y2. Yabo? Omunye angabhala ngani? Ngama molecules zike. Whereas phela X2 uthi ubani H2 ozoba less than O2 ozoba less than N2. So it's up to you ukuthi wena iphi indlela ke oyithanda. Remember we used increasing bond order. Sibonile la uthi there's a triple bond angithi ku nitrogen, so it has the highest, meaning ibe ngasekugcineni. And then khona i single bond in hydrogen, therefore showcase kumele ibe ngaseqaleni. Obviously oxygen uzobe part nendawo of hydrogen and nitrogen. So umbuzo wokugcina lo, and the whole paper was 75 marks. Sesuphendulile ku-75 marks. If there's any question you didn't understand why we chose inamba ethize, or you feel as if i-answer yakho ubungakwazi nawe ukuyithola ngenye indlela, or whatever reason may be, feel free ukuthi ukwazi ukusenda i-message sibonisane ukuthi singasizana ngakephi ukuze wena uzothola ama-marks aphambili. And then okugcina, remember ukuthi leli phepha leli liphethe ini? Liphethe umsebenzi we-physics, liphethe umsebenzi we-chemistry. The first 4 questions kade okay, asimkhiphe question 1 multiple choice. Multiple choice ibinembuzo o4 ye-physics nombuzo owodwa we-chemistry sikhiphe. But question 2, question 3, question 4 was physics. But question 5 and 6 was chemistry. Yes, so ungazuyitshela paper 1 lo, ungazuyitshela paper 2. There is one paper called the common paper or a common test across the colleges ase KZN eKwaZulu Natal. So if you have any question about any paper now onalo mhlawumbe la ngo-2016, for example, odinga usizo nalo, you could request ukuthi senze a lesson like this under that paper ukuze wena uzo-understanda kangcono for i-preparation yakho yama-exams alandelayo. As ufunda u-grade 11, grade 11 uyi-grade ebalulekile kakhulu as usungena kwama-topics into a deeper level. Now ukuthi if your foundation yaka grade 10 is weak, kuba nzima understand ama-concepts aka grade 11, and must you apply aka grade 12, they will need i-report lakho la grade 11 final term. Okusho ukuthi this is your build up for lelo report ozo apply ngayo ema-university. They will want it. Ngakho ke i-physics yakho mayiphezulu, ama-university azokuthatha kalula. So azama ukulungisa leyo ndaba leyo. So siyobonana on another episode of e-question paper previous.